Hello, my name is Louisa and I'm a second-year PhD student in theatre studies at the Sorbonne Nouvelle, Paris, under the supervision of Pierre Longuenesse, affiliated to l'Institut de Recherche en Études Théâtrales, Research Institute of Theatre Studies, within the doctoral school Arts and Media. I work on the theatre of radio voices, in which I focus on the theatricality of radio voices through the form of the interview from the years 2000 to the present day, on Radio France channel called France Culture. In my research, I'm asking the following question: is the radio voice theatrical? Certainly, the voice in the theatre doesn't unfold in the same way as it does on the radio. The intensity and tone appropriate for a radio voice are not those of an actor's voice on a theatre stage. We often hear that the actor must perform for the people in the last row of the audience, carrying and projecting his or her voice to make the vocal range heard. In a radio studio in front of a microphone, you must be softer and more inward. However, the very fact of modulating one's voice, of considering it as one's main working tool on the radio, seems to contain a particular theatrical dimension. Questions of address, tone, and voice articulation seem to contain a particular theatrical dimension. I would like to point out that I've been doing field research at France Culture since the second year of my master in theatre studies. I wrote a thesis based on my internship on Marie Riche's program called Par les temps qui courent in 2022. It was a daily radio show with multidisciplinary programming, and it featured artists talking about their current work. So I was able to observe and take part in the behind-the-scenes process of creating a radio interview program. Based on this experience set against theoretical references in theatre studies, I put forward the hypothesis that radio is theatrical. It seems that theatre and the analytic tools that make it up, such as dramaturgy and theatricality, are also present in the very artistic and aesthetic dimensions of radio. For the two actors in the studio, the interviewer and the interviewee, there may be a real staging of the self in the studio, within the interview. At the same time, I am conducting interviews with professionals who create and produce radio programs for France Culture. I ask them and other contributors about the artistic and even theatrical dimension of their work. The director, Jacques Copeau, used to say, "The microphone is the close-up of the heart," as if, to a certain extent, the interviewer and the interviewee could not lie, had no choice betrayed by their voices, but to be sincere. And yet, it is through the voice that we lie, that we conceal, and that we can invent our own character. Theatricality is also about simulacra, artifice, and more generally self-representation. In a radio studio, in front of a microphone, the two members of the interview do not express themselves in the same way as in their daily life. The voice therefore contains a paradox. It is both a magnifying and intimate mirror of the emotions running through a person when they are expressing themselves, and a malleable tool, a medium of language that can say exactly the opposite of what we feel, what we think. In this sense, lying is like acting, playing at being someone else without even being fully aware of it on the radio. The sociologist Pierre Bourdieu refers to this as an effort at self-presentation, or rather self-production. Besides, there may be a doubling of the interviewer when he enters the studio. In the same way that an actor becomes a character he is portraying on stage, the interviewer could be subject to a transformation in the studio. In the end, however much of oneself one puts into the radio practice of interviewing, it seems that theatricality lies precisely at the point of interpreting one's own role on the microphone, and that is what Guillaume Willem writes in his article, The Invention of the Writer's Interview, Writing Radio Dialogue in 2014. To conclude this short presentation, I would like to add the idea that the radio program itself could be compared to a theatrical performance with its own dramaturgy. A shaping of reality in the studio, the concrete radio stage. Thank you very much for your attention.